The RTX 2080 Ti is finally in the studio. Today, I'm actually going to be a little selfish because we're going to be comparing the 2080 Ti and the 1080 Ti, but specifically in higher FPS 1440p gaming. That's where I currently think the sweet spot is for PC gaming, and since we've already seen all of the other 4K benchmarks with this card, let's have a look at these. Let's get into it. Hey, welcome to Zach's Tech Turf. Today we're going to be comparing the monster RTX 2080 Ti versus the now outdated 1080 Ti. And if you're new here and you want to see more graphics card videos like the one I just made about the 1080 Ti becoming obsolete, then hit that subscribe button down below and also that notification bell. That way you never miss an episode. But yeah, let's check these cards out. As usual, let's go over a very brief introduction to these two cards before we get into the most important part of the video, the benchmarks. The specific 1080 Ti that we're using today is the EVGA SC Black Edition, which is rocking 11GB of GDDR5X memory and a base clock of 1556 MHz and a boost clock of 1680 MHz. The shiny new RTX 2080 Ti that we're using today is the MSI Duke Edition, which is rocking 11GB of the new GDDR6 memory, a base clock of 1350 MHz and a boost clock of 1665 MHz. At the time of making this video, you can find a 1080 Ti still new for around $700 to $800 and the RTX 2080 Ti for like $1,300 or maybe even more. As we all know at this point, the meat and potatoes in the RTX 2080 Ti update is indeed the RTX or ray tracing technology, but that's not what we're testing today. Even if we wanted to, games aren't really supporting the new technology at this time aside from a couple of canned benchmarks, so for now we'll have to test these two cards out with some good old-fashioned regular gaming benchmarks. One feature that I'm actually really looking forward to in the RTX cards is DLSS, which is a new form of anti-aliasing which actually boosts performance in games that actually support it, and it's actually looking pretty solid so far. I would have to make an entire dedicated video on that, so we're not looking at that either. The sole purpose of the video today is to see if the upgrade from a 1080 Ti to a 2080 Ti is worth the insane price tag, and specifically for people like me who believe the sweet spot in gaming is 1440p and higher FPS compared to 4K and around 60 FPS. I'm not kidding when I say once you go to higher FPS, you really can't go back to 60. Whenever I game on my benchmarking rig back there with the 60Hz monitor, it feels really choppy. So with these high-end graphics cards, I definitely prefer to play at 1440p and like 90 to 144 FPS. And finally, before getting into the benchmarks, our testing rig for today is my normal everyday computer, which I actually made a dedicated video on, so go check that one out if you haven't already. It's rocking an i7 8700K, which is left at stock speeds for this video, 16GB of DDR4 memory clocked at 3600 MHz, and the games are installed on a 2TB Western Digital black hard drive. I also kept both of these graphics cards at stock speeds for this video. I never like comparing overclock graphics cards because you just never know if one of them hit the silicone lottery and if one didn't, so it's just more fair to leave them both at stock speeds. The first game up on our benchmarking run is none other than Fortnite. Please forgive me, I just had to get this one out of the way. And in 1440p in ultra settings, aka as high as they go, here are the results. As you can see, the 1080 Ti averaged a solid 127 FPS, but the 2080 Ti was able to stay above that target 144 FPS mark for a 17% increase in performance. Getting into the tougher to run games, the brand new Assassin's Creed Odyssey was up next. This one is still an unoptimized mess, by the way, and here the RTX 2080 Ti averaged 10 FPS better than the 1080 Ti for a 13% increase in 1440p and high settings. Shadow of the Tomb Raider followed, and in 1440p and high settings yet again, the GTX 1080 Ti averaged 79 while the 2080 Ti averaged an impressive 101 FPS. This 28% improvement was definitely our biggest of the day. And finally, the last game was Call of Duty Black Ops 4. Make sure you check out my dedicated benchmarking video on this one, by the way. And for this one, I had to put the settings at a mix of high and medium at 1440p. With this, the 1080 Ti averaged an FPS average of 149, while the 2080 Ti averaged 155, which is only a 4% increase. And finally, just for fun, I decided to fire up the trusty 3D Mark Time Spy benchmark, and here the RTX 2080 Ti averaged 29% 20% better than the 1080 Ti and got a very impressive score. Keep in mind that these canned benchmarks don't always paint the full picture, but those are some pretty good results nonetheless. So there you have it. Those are the results for the RTX 2080 Ti and the GTX 1080 Ti. As you can see, the RTX 2080 Ti is averaging anywhere from 4 to 28% better, and it all comes down to the specific title that you're working with. As far as the price to performance goes, no, the RTX 2080 Ti is definitely not worth it, but I think most of you knew that already. However, if you're someone like me that's insane and just wants to have the latest graphics card every generation, then the purchase almost makes sense. The results that I showed off today aren't even capturing what the true upgrade in this GPU is, RTX technology and DLSS, but don't worry, I'll be sure to show those off in future videos. One thing that you guys have to realize is that people that are spending this kind of money on a single part in their PC aren't trying to get the best bang for your buck performance, and most of them are just enthusiasts like me who want to have the coolest PC on the block. To some people, it's just worth it. All in all, I'm definitely happy with my RTX 2080 Ti, but I'm even more happy at each and every one of you watching this video. I know that the top tech YouTubers have already posted a ton of content around this card, so I really appreciate you guys sticking with me and waiting for the insanely long delay of Amazon shipping this card to me. It really means a lot. Well, that wraps up my comparison video of the GTX 1080 Ti and the RTX 2080 Ti. As always, be sure to let me know down in the comment section what other content you want to see with this card. After that, feel free to head on over to one of these two videos if you haven't seen them yet, and definitely hit that subscribe button because next week we're checking out the Athlon 200 GE for you budget gamers. You don't want to miss that video.